You are not truly in control of your life. Rather, you are reacting to it. Each day you wake up not as the player, but as a piece moved by unseen forces, trapped in a game you never chose. You have mistaken noise for strategy, motion for meaning, and approval for peace. You chase status, goals, and validation, while something vital inside you quietly collapses. Though you shield your ego, your mind remains vulnerable. You post strength but feel hollow, project clarity but live in confusion. Every decision you make is less your own and more a desperate attempt to be someone you may not even want to be. You think the world is attacking you, but the real enemy lies within whispering doubts, sabotaging your efforts. If you don't silence this inner voice, it wins. This struggle is not just motivation. It is the war between the version of you that survives and the version slowly dying trying to be admired. The real question is what you are willing to protect, even if it costs you everything else. Because if you don't protect your inner king, the game ends not with a bang but silent surrender. Many believe they control their lives, making choices and living with purpose. Carl Jung saw differently. He believed most people are not truly living but reacting to unprocessed pain and buried wounds, forgotten by consciousness. Jung approached the mind not as a scientist studying a machine, but as a traveler in a mythological labyrinth filled with archetypes, shadows, and forgotten selves. He discovered a hidden force within each person the king meant to govern life with clarity, courage, and consciousness. For most, this king lies dead, smothered by fear, shame, and a society that punishes individuality and rewards conformity. We think we are free, yet many are puppets pulled by invisible strings, playing roles chosen not by themselves but by haunting voices from their past. Jung called this the unconscious, a living force that runs your life whether you know it or not. This video is not just about Jung's theories but about the war taking place inside your mind, between the part that wants to rise and the part that wants to hide, between the inner king and an assassin you don't realize exists. We must journey into the psyche's depths, into myths, dreams, and darkness, because until you face what's inside, you will never know who you truly are. Worse, you may never realize that the enemy you fought all along is yourself. Imagine a man with intelligence, wealth, and charisma. In business, he never fails. Every goal conquered, every deal turned to gold, admired, envied, but in love, he always loses. Relationships collapse. He chooses poorly, self-sabotages, and withdraws when closeness grows. Deep down, he wonders, what's wrong with me? Jung's answer would be dark. He fails because a part of him does not want to win a hidden force, fearing intimacy, shaped by past betrayal or lessons equating vulnerability with weakness. His subconscious deems closeness dangerous and sabotages connection attempts with quiet precision. This is the illusion of control. We think we make free, rational choices, but often we are puppets of scripts written in childhood emotional programs running the show. The ego believes it drives the car. The unconscious has the wheel. Jung warned that if we do not become conscious of these forces, they will possess us, leading to repeated mistakes, evil patterns mistaken for fate. This applies beyond love. The perfectionist burned out from believing never enough. The aggressive leader who pushes others away to mask weakness. The silent artist silenced by the fear of rejection. Different lives, the same story, people at war with themselves and losing. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Most live ruled by shadows, blaming others, unaware that prison lies inside themselves. The man who sees the illusion, who realizes his life is shaped not by desires but fears, has taken the first step toward freedom. Because you cannot conquer what you refuse to face, nor rule until the inner king awakens. Consider the man who seemed good, polite, generous, never raised his voice or cheated praise by society, and used as a standard. Then one day, a small argument sparked an explosion, shouting threats, smashing a window. Police were called. He looked in the mirror and said, I don't know who that was. Jung would say, yes, you do. You've lived pretending you do not. That outburst was not random loss of control, but the eruption of his shadow, the part of himself he suppressed. Rage, envy, lust, insecurity, cruelty. The shadow is not evil, but everything you refuse to see in yourself. Society teaches us to be good, so we obey and mask true feelings, hiding pain and desires. Every suppression exiles a part of the soul into the unconscious. The shadow waits for a crack in the armor, a trigger, a moment of weakness, and, when it emerges, it roars. Jung said, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. The kindest and most virtuous may be most at risk, not evil, but deeply repressed. This moral man's outburst came from repressing anger. Denying it gave it power. Whatever you refuse to confront controls you from the dark. This is Jung's terrifying truth. Your shadow is you unclaimed, the child who never screamed, the ashamed teenager, the adult haunted by your not good enough part of you that didn't fit the image and was cast into a dungeon without a lock. If you don't open it willingly, it bursts open. Jung did not want us to be merely good, but whole. Life's goal is integration, bringing shadow into the light, looking it in the eye, and saying, you are part of me. Only then can the king rise not as a mask, but sovereign. Jung's most dangerous discovery was about identity and power. The parts you hate may be keys to transformation, but you must enter darkness where the real you waits. Picture a man, unemployed after 20 years, no badge or title, staring into a reflection he does not recognize. He whispers, I don't know who I am without being someone. Millions live this silent crisis of identity. Jung saw we live with two selves, the ego we present and the real self beneath it. The ego is armor, reputation, titular, mask built for applause. The real self is messy, raw, human, craving authenticity yet tragically ignored. Most live inside their ego, climbing ladders and winning accolades, only to find at the top they've abandoned their true self. It begins early, shaping behaviors to please and gain approval, hiding tears, silencing ideas, conforming until the shape becomes a prison. The man did not love his job, only what it made him feel, important, respected, seen. When it was lost, so was he, because his ego had become home, identity. And God. Jung called this confusion the modern soul's greatest tragedy, replacing self with persona. This costs growth, healing, and love. Many feel empty after success, because the real self remains forgotten at base camp, while the ego stands on the summit. Jung did not advocate destroying the ego. It is necessary, but it must not lead. The real self must reign, which requires brutal honesty. If you lost all that makes you impressive, who would you be? If admiration vanished, could you find peace? These answers unsettle but liberate, because once you see the mask, you can remove it and reveal the real you. Not perfect, but true, and truth is the seed of transformation. He never yelled or argued, always smiled and stayed silent, despite disrespect. Inside, a quiet scream resided, teaching him it was safer to hide anger. Anger had been punished so often that he created a facade of unshakable politeness. But the angry child locked away did not die. It sank deeper into the unconscious. Jung's divided psyche. Children arrive whole, but learn which parts are acceptable and which are not. Curiosity may annoy parents. Confidence may be called arrogance. Sensitivity labeled weakness. We perform tiny surgeries on ourselves, excising emotions to survive. The paradox Jung revealed: the more we reject parts of ourselves, the more they control us. Buried anger becomes passive aggression. Buried pain becomes numbness. Hidden fear leads to avoidance of life. Burying emotions does not kill them, but empowers them in darkness. This fuels an inner war between the mask and the mirror, between pretended self and true self, a true self, a war of childhood survival, deepening over time until we become strangers to our own souls. This began with one moment, tears deemed too much, a no punished, a raw truth too loud for the world. We hid it, turning hiding into habit, habit into personality, personality into a prison. Jung's message: what once helped survive now keeps you from living fully. Healing means return to pain, but to the part you left behind. You must find and hold the child not allowed to feel. Remember instead of forget, because the war inside you is won not through dominance but integration. Welcoming exiled parts restores wholeness. She cried receiving news of her dream job, which everyone celebrated. For a moment, she believed she deserved it. But whispers arose: are you ready? What if they find out you're not good enough? She worked harder, skipped lunch, then imagined quitting and ultimately left, citing a poor fit. Deep down, something inside blocked her success. Self-sabotage is subtle, hidden in hesitation, procrastination, and perfectionism. It is not loud, it whispers. You don't deserve this, Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. She called it bad timing or burnout, but it was a belief shaped by rejection and quiet shame. Success is suspicious. Joy comes with strings attached. Happiness is temporary. This psychic pattern once protected but now imprisons. Most never see it. They live unrecognized patterns called just the way I am. But truly, they relive wounds. Until brought to light, these wounds build cages with their own hands. If you've ever pulled away just as things got good, feared success is knock, or ruined beauty without knowing why it's not weakness or fate. It's a forgotten part trying to protect you from unneeded pain. In ancient myth, Hercules fought the Hydra multi-headed serpent. Cutting one head led two to more rising. Not just a beast, but a metaphor for repression. In Gungian terms, repression is burying, not forgetting. Buried emotions don't die but transform, growing stronger and darker. Anger into passive aggression, desire into addiction, sadness into numbness that the Hydra hides in the mirror behind a polite, disciplined exterior, concealing rage, starved needs, and abandoned self. Each time you say, "I'm fine, it's not a big deal," or "I'm over it," you feed the Hydra. Jung called this shadow the repressed self gaining power by denial until it erupts in breakdowns, public outbursts, or betrayals. This eruption isn't sudden but a silent growth in the gloomy corners where light never reached. Repression's danger is thinking you're hiding pain while giving it time to evolve. Warriors ignoring fear become reckless. Lovers hiding wounds become cold. Leaders suppressing weakness become tyrants. Denial hardens fate because ignored darkness waits to come as a storm. Ask yourself, what parts of me have I locked away? What emotions do I refuse to feel, thinking I've killed them only to find them stronger? The Hydra falls, not by force, but awareness by facing emotions, not killing them. Until then, the greatest enemy is within. He feared his anger, which reminded him of his father's shouting and the fear it bred. He buried it, smiling when furious, laughing when wanting to scream. To others, the nice, easygoing man, but inside, cracking. Rejecting a part doesn't eliminate it. It exiles it. Jung taught integration, reclaiming the shadow not to indulge, but to understand and transform it. One day, after humiliation at work, he didn't explode. Instead, he listened to his anger, felt its fire and childhood wounds. For the first time, he asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" The anger spoke of self-protection, setting boundaries, no longer being a doormat, not rage but raw wisdom. This began his growth, saying no without guilt. No apologies for existing, confronting conflict with presence. Life didn't become perfect, but became real. Integration is about wholeness, embracing pain, rage, jealousy, and shame alongside kindness and achievement. Jung believed becoming fully human demands facing the shadow and integrating it. When you do, darkness no longer controls from the basement, but walks beside you. Anger guides boundary setting, fear, caution, sadness, empathy, envy, ambition, but only if you embrace the truth. Healing comes not by rejection but transformation. That man didn't become angrier, he became stronger and more honest. Maybe you can, too. The war is not external but inside you. No one can win it for you, nor therapist, partner, or distraction. Others help guide, but the choice is yours. Keep running, blaming, pretending, or finally stop, turn inward, and face the enemy in your reflection. Jung wrote, "He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens." Awakening is violent, ugly, like death, the death of who you thought you were. But from that fire is born the hero within, the part seeking truth and wholeness, not comfort or safety. Becoming whole means confronting fear, shadow, rage, shame, trauma, guilt, and your true reflection. This is no movie with external savior or final battle. The war is silent, internal, deeply personal. If you lose, no one knows. You smile, function, exist but don't live. If you win, no one may notice either, but you will walk differently, speak from your soul, and see your inner king reborn. If this video made you uncomfortable, that means you woke something inside. Don't let it die here. Awareness is just the first step. Integration is the real work. This journey is not for the faint-hearted, but for those willing to face their chaos and rise. If you are one of them, subscribe. This channel is a mirror, diving deeper every week. Drop a comment. What part of yourself are you still hiding? I will be in the replies. Until next time, keep facing the dark. From the outside, it seems like you have everything under control. You get praised for your discipline, your patience, your ability to always keep it together. But inside, there's a different story, a version you don't show anyone, maybe one you barely admit to yourself. That version is tired of hiding, tired of smiling through frustration, tired of pretending nothing gets to you. You do what's expected, not because it's what you want, but because it's what keeps the peace, what keeps you accepted and admired. But every time you silence yourself, every time you abandon your own feelings for the sake of harmony, you surrender a tiny piece of who you really are. This is how we start building a life on autopilot, living as a reaction, not a deliberate choice. The pattern starts young. You learn, usually unspoken, what's allowed in your home, what makes you lovable or tolerable. Maybe anger was dangerous, so you buried it. Maybe showing sadness made you a target or marked you as weak, so you forced on a brave face. Over time, you become a master at reading the room, scanning faces for the smallest changes so you know which role to play. That hyper-awareness becomes your armor. But the more skilled you get at pleasing or blending in, the more you lose track of what you actually want or even who you actually are. Some people first notice this disconnection at work. They land the job they always talked about, the one with the title that fits perfectly in their LinkedIn bio and impresses everyone at dinner parties. At first, they feel proud, energized, but soon, they feel empty. They can't shake the heaviness, or the feeling like they're just going through the motions. They find themselves staying up late, fixing things that don't matter, trying to never say the wrong thing, terrified that someone will see through the mask. When praise does come, it feels unreal, even undeserved, like they've manipulated people into liking a version of themselves they don't actually believe in. Others notice it in relationships. They meet someone wonderful, and for a time, everything feels perfect. But as closeness grows, so does an inexplicable anxiety. Every compliment is doubted, every gesture second-guessed. They start pulling away, not loudly, but quietly. Calls get shorter, texts go unanswered, plans get cancelled. They might blame being busy or needing space, but deep down it's something else. The haunting belief that if someone saw the real them, they'd leave. Carl Jung called this the tragedy of the divided self. There is the ego, the face you craft for the world, competent, strong, likable. Then, hidden underneath, is the authentic self, the messy, needy, imperfect source of your real desires and dreams. The problem isn't having an ego. Everyone needs a mask for certain situations. The problem is forgetting there's anything underneath it, and forgetting that the real self must be integrated and honored, not exiled. Jung saw this split as the root of modern suffering, a kind of silent suffocation that sets in when you spend decades running from the parts of yourself you fear are unacceptable. The perfectionist becomes chronically dissatisfied, no matter how much she achieves, because her worth is still tied to someone else's approval. The leader becomes a dictator at work or at home, desperate to keep hidden any sign of weakness. The sensitive artist never risks sharing real work, convinced it will be rejected the second anyone sees its flaws. None of these people set out to hurt themselves, but their shadow that denied, exiled feelings and memories rules them from the dark. The sad reality is that most people never see how deep this goes. They believe their struggles are about bad luck, or timing, or other people's failings. But what they're really experiencing are the echoes of old wounds, making choices for them, choices they can barely even see, let alone challenge. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That is Jung's warning, his invitation to see that you are not simply the sum of your achievements or failures, but a complex, fractal pattern of history's beliefs and suppressed truths. So, how do you start confronting this? Begin by noticing where you keep yourself small or quiet for the sake of acceptance. Where do you abandon what matters in order to be good or safe? It could be saying yes when you desperately want to say no, or brushing off a compliment because it feels unsafe to be seen. Every time you do that, ask yourself, who taught you this was the way to survive? Was it your family, school? Somewhere along the way, you internalized the belief that being your full self was risky. That belief is not your fault, but healing. It is your responsibility now. Another entry point is to question not only your big life choices, but your small daily decisions. Do you order what you want at the restaurant, or just what everyone else is having? Do you express your real opinion, or keep quiet to avoid friction? Every habit of self-erasure, no matter how small, is a clue, a trail that leads to the heart of your lost authenticity. And when those old feelings surge up, anger, jealousy, sadness, even hatred, resist the urge to squash them right away. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? In Jung's terms, the shadow grows not because it is evil, but because it is denied. The parts of you that feel most frightening or shameful are often the keys to your liberation. If you can face and integrate them, transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you tossed aside. To survive, it means risking the discomfort of setting boundaries, of disappointing people, of looking selfish or weak or too much. It's about saying, "This is who I am, wounds and all," and trusting that wholeness is more meaningful than perfection or admiration. No one is going to hand you your authenticity on a platter. No one can do the integration work for you. Friends can support, teachers can guide, but ultimately, it's you facing yourself in the quiet moments, acknowledging the war inside, recognizing the parts you abandoned, and choosing one step at a time to invite them back from exile. This journey isn't instant, and it isn't easy. It will mean making choices that might upset the balance you've carefully maintained for years. You will doubt yourself, face resistance, want to quit, but this is the only path to peace that lasts. Because until you bring your shadow into the light, it will rule you as fate, not after some dramatic breakdown, but in all the subtle ways you hold yourself back from the life you once dreamed was possible. So, pause and notice. In what ways are you just existing to be accepted, avoiding your own depths? What have you pushed away in fear that it would make you unlovable? The answers to those questions are the keys to reclaiming your power, and more importantly, your wholeness. The real youth, one not shaped by survival, but by truth, isn't missing, just waiting to be welcomed home. Beyond personal shadows and hidden selves, Carl Jung introduced a profound idea called the collective unconscious. This isn't just about your personal history or suppressed parts of yourself. It's about a shared psychological inheritance. All humans carry, imagine, a vast mental reservoir beneath individual awareness, filled with symbols, themes, and stories passed down through generations, connecting us all at a deep level. Jung described the collective unconscious as containing archetypes, universal patterns or characters that show up across cultures and time, regardless of personal experience. Think of the hero who embarks on a journey, the nurturing mother figure, the wise old man, the trickster who challenges the rules, or the shadow representing the dark side of the self. These aren't just fictional characters, they are psychic blueprints embedded in all of us, shaping how we perceive and interpret the world. One example of the collective unconscious in action is the feeling of déjà vu, that eerie sensation of having experienced something before, even when you logically know it's new. Jung believed this could be a glimpse into accessing memories stored not just in your personal unconscious but in this deeper, inherited collective layer. This collective unconscious influences not only the stories we tell, but also our fears, hopes, dreams, and even cultural rituals. For instance, religious symbols or myths often tap into these archetypes, resonating universally because they speak to this shared psychic foundation. But here's the crucial point. While this collective unconscious connects us, it also can hold shadows, not just personal ones, but dark, inherited tensions and fears that manifest individually in ways we might not fully understand. It can either pull us toward integration and wholeness or, if ignored, deepen confusion and conflict within. Understanding the collective unconscious is more than academic. It's a call to recognize that part of your psychological struggle isn't just yours alone, but echoes a much larger human story. As you face your personal shadows and hidden selves, remember you are navigating both your individual psyche and this vast ancestral heritage that influences your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Jung's work invites you not just to face your personal unconscious but also to engage with these archetypal forces, an invitation to transform not only yourself but to connect with the timeless patterns that shape humanity. This journey is about reclaiming your personal kingdom, awakening the inner king, and understanding the deeper, shared roots of your dreams, struggles, and potentials. Now that we've touched on the collective unconscious and archetypes, let's focus on one of the most powerful and misunderstood figures in Jungian psychology, the inner king. This idea might sound royal or grandiose, but it's actually about something deeply human, the part of you meant to lead your life with authority, wisdom, and compassion. The inner king isn't about external power, titles, or domination over others. Instead, it symbolizes a sovereign within the voice that calls for clarity, integrity, and responsibility. It is the source of true self-mastery. Yet for many, that inner king is silent or dead. Why? Because life wounds and conditioning often teach us the opposite: fear, shame, doubt, and conformity. The inner king struggles to rise when you've been trained to shrink, hide your true self, or wear masks. Society often rewards compliance over courage and punishes individuality, leaving the king exiled. Think about it. When you feel lost, overwhelmed, or reactive, that's the inner king whispering, "Where am I? Why can't I speak or act from true strength?" It's the part begging for integration and awakening. Without the king's presence, life feels chaotic, decisions feel forced, energy is scattered, and peace is elusive. Awakening the inner king means stepping into your sovereignty. It's about setting boundaries not as an act of aggression, but as an expression of self-respect and care. It's about saying yes to what aligns with your truth, and no to what drains or diminishes you. This kind of leadership begins inside and ripples outward. Jung emphasized that this sovereignty doesn't come from ignoring or defeating your shadow, but from embracing and integrating it. The king must rule not by denying the darker parts of the psyche, but by bringing them into balance, transforming raw impulses into adaptive power. Practical steps to connect with your inner king include: reflect on your values. What do you stand for beyond external approval? Write down what integrity and courage mean to you personally. Practice conscious decision-making. Before reacting, pause and ask, what would the king in me do right now? This builds awareness and shifts you from reactive to proactive. Own your boundaries. Start small by expressing honest feelings and needs with people you trust. Notice the difference between people-pleasing and self-respect. Narrate your story differently. See yourself not as a victim or a puppet, but as the ruler of your own kingdom. This reframing rewires old mental patterns. Remember, rebirthing the inner king isn't about perfection or always having control. It's about waking up to your own authority and capacity to navigate life, even amid uncertainty or fear. The king's rise is the antidote to internal chaos. It aligns your ego and your authentic self, bringing order to the inner realm. When the king leads, the shadow doesn't disappear, it becomes an ally, a source of wisdom and strength, rather than a hidden enemy. But this awakening doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of courage, honesty, and sometimes discomfort. You'll need to challenge old beliefs, face fears, and perhaps confront parts of yourself you've avoided. Yet, this is where true freedom begins, the freedom to live in alignment with your deepest truth. Imagine walking through life knowing you have an inner leader who supports you, not a harsh master or judge, but a wise and compassionate king. This presence allows you to create boundaries, pursue goals with clarity, and respond to life's challenges with resilience. Jung's prompt to reclaim your inner king is a call to step into your full humanity, to be bold, authentic, and whole. Because only when the king within is awake can you stop merely surviving and start truly living. If you've made it this far on this journey into your own psyche, you already know true transformation isn't glamorous. It doesn't happen in a flash of insight or a single heroic act. Sometimes it's slow, gritty, and repetitive. It's about choosing, day after day, to bring awareness to the places you used to numb or ignore. It's about finding patience for your own process. Even when you feel like progress is invisible, there will be setbacks. Maybe you'll catch yourself slipping back into old habits, seeking approval, avoiding conflict, ghosting your needs. The shadow parts you thought you'd integrated might resurface, louder and more persuasive than ever. This is not failure. This is the natural rhythm of inner work. Healing and integration are spirals, not straight lines. Each time you revisit old wounds or challenging emotions, you can meet them with more wisdom and less fear. That's growth. Even if it doesn't look like a movie montage of victories. Jung taught that the goal of life isn't to fix yourself, but to become whole. That means making space for every part of youth and noble, the fearful, the joyful, and the jealous. Wholeness isn't perfection, it's honesty. When you accept that, you free yourself from the endless exhaustion of pretending, performing, or earning your worth. You can finally stop waging war on yourself and, instead, build a kind of inner peace that lasts. Take a moment now and look at your own story. What masks are you still wearing out of habit? Where have you mistaken busyness for meaning or approval for love? When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to, not because it was expected or admired? These questions aren't meant to shame, but to awaken. The act of asking honestly is already the start of change. You may find that reclaiming authenticity shakes up your life. Some relationships might feel the strain as you start stating your needs or showing your raw feelings. You may experience discomfort as old dynamics shift. That's a sign you're growing, because real, lasting change always disturbs the old normal before it settles into a new way of being. But with every uncomfortable step comes greater freedom. You begin to trust yourself, to set boundaries without guilt, to embody presence instead of perfection. Your energy no longer leaches out in self-doubt or resentment. It's reclaimed, focused, and channeled into the life you actually want. The beauty is, as you walk this path toward wholeness, you become a quiet force for change, not just in your life, but for everyone you touch. Just by showing up as your whole self, you give unspoken permission to others to do the same. Your courage ripples out. Your integration helps heal a little piece of the collective soul. Carl Jung ends up not only as a guide to your own mind, but as a kind of mapmaker for everyone searching for meaning in a noisy, status-driven world. His call is simple, but not easy. Look within, admit what you find, and choose wholeness again and again. So, what now? Remember, you don't need to fight your inner war alone. Seek help when you need it. Therapy, real friendships, creative outlets, these are not signs of weakness, but acts of respect for your humanity. Community and connection can turn the hardest journeys into possible ones. If you've found something here that cracks open a door for you, don't let it fade. Take one concrete step. Journal about what you're reclaiming. Set a small boundary. Express one honest feeling. Comment below with what resonated for you, or what shadow you're ready to face. This is how real change begins, with small truths spoken out loud. Finally, if this series pushes you, unsettles you, or gives you tools in your inner work, subscribe. This isn't just a channel, it's a mirror, a journey, a support for anyone ready to stop living as a puppet and start living as the king or queen of their own life. Every week, we'll go deeper together. Until then, keep facing the dark, keep choosing wholeness, even when it isn't easy. Trust that your real self, the one who's been exiled or hidden, is waiting to meet you on the other side. And when you finally let them in, you'll realize the kind of peace and freedom that can't be taken away, no matter what happens outside. See you in the next video.